Welcome back to Joellen's Kitchen. Today we're going to take our friendship starter and we're going to make sourdough bread. Very basic recipe. When we come back after it rises and we punch it down and roll it out or divide it into pieces, we'll show you some different options that you can do with a very basic recipe. So I have my big plastic bowl. You can use plastic or glass, no metal utensils. I have a wooden spoon to get it started with mixing. Took off my rings so I don't get them messy. And everything that I have is in plastic or glass. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in 6 cups of flour. This is going to make 3 large or about 5 small loaves if you want to do all bread. We're going to get out 1 cup of our friendship starter. It's been cooking, making yeast, getting fed on the sugar that we added for 10 days. So on day 11 you can use it. And you might have to squeeze it around, massage it just a little bit because there's a lot of air bubbles in it. We want to make sure we get batter, not just air bubbles. There we go. Okay, we have 1 cup of friendship starter. We're going to put that in on our flour. And while that's dripping a bit, we have 1 cup of sugar. Now you can do half a cup of sugar, you can do 3 tablespoons of sugar, whatever your preference is for sweetness. But I'm going to do a cup of sugar. There we go. We also want 2 teaspoons of salt. And I just like to measure in my hand, but you're welcome to use a measuring spoon. Okay, 2 teaspoons of salt. I use Mazola. You can use Crisco or whatever kind that you care to, but I like the corn oil. So we want 1/2 cup of oil. Okay, 1/2 cup of oil. We're going to put that in. The thing left to add is 1 1/2 cups of warm water. You don't want hot because hot could kill the yeast, and we don't want to do that. We want to let it continue to grow and make more batter for us so we can share it with our friends. So here we go. I'm going to put a hole in the middle and pour in my water. I have 1 1/2 cups of warm water measured. Add that. And then you can start with the spoon, but at some point it's going to get stiff and you're going to have to get in there with your hands, maybe put a little oil on them so everything doesn't stick to them. And then you're going to have to knead it for 5 minutes. So let's get this mixed up here. When we have this kneaded for 5 minutes, we're going to form it into a dough ball and put it back into the bowl, coat our hands and coat the whole ball with oil, cover it with wax paper, and leave it sit 12 to 14 hours, which is really overnight. And then tomorrow morning we're going to punch it down and we're going to knead it 5 more minutes, and we will divide it into the number of pieces that we want to make. So I will probably divide mine into 4 or 5 pieces to make some regular sourdough bread. And I think we're going to try some cheddar cheese muffins as well as some cinnamon nut hot rolls. I think that would be kind of fun to try. So, enough talk. Let's get this dough kneaded. I've got my clock here. It's 1:15, so I'm going to knead it for 5 minutes. Now you can knead it long. Oops, sorry. I'm going to knead it for at least 5 minutes. You can knead it longer if you like, but 5 minutes minimum. And it's really coming into a nice ball. In fact, it's good enough I can pick it up and show it to you. That's the bread we're kneading. You want to keep like turning it So you're always putting something different to the center and pushing down on it. And that way the yeast and all the ingredients are getting mixed thoroughly throughout. There we go. Just enough that I can coat my hands with a little flour. Could use oil too. If it does it again, we'll get some oil in there. Stretch it out like taffy a little bit and knead it to the center if you have to. It kind of stretches out with gravity. Alright, now I should be able to knead without sticking so much. This time, when I put the oil on my hands, I'm just going to coat my dough so that it doesn't stick to everything as it rises. Oh, that did the trick. There, it's coated with oil, and we're going to get some wax paper, cover it, and let it rise. Okay, I'm back with my wax paper, and we're going to kind of push it down in there and shape it around the edges of the dough so it's all covered, and we can keep the air from getting to it so it doesn't dry out. Ta-da! Okay, we're going to just let this sit on the table overnight. Again, 12 to 14 hours. It should at least double in size, and we'll be back. Thank you. I'm up bright and early so that we can knead the bread in the next section of our recipe. And I'm just going to spread out some flour on my board, and I think I'm going to get the dough out of the bowl this time. That paper came off of there real nice because of the oil, and we're going to let it roll out here. Beautiful. Okay, and we're going to flip it around and get a little flour on both sides, and we're just going to start to knead this. We're going to be kneading for 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes. If you want to do it more, that you feel you want to do it more, that's fine. 10 minutes is fine, but I wouldn't go more than 10 minutes. Just want to make sure that yeast is all even throughout there, because we're going to be letting it rise for another 8 hours after we cut it into portions. And we're going to make some regular sourdough bread today. But we're also going to make a couple of other ingredients in it, and that is, I thought I would make some cinnamon rolls. And did you ever go to Red Lobster and get those cheesy biscuits? Well, we're going to do a little bit of a version of cheesy biscuits in the form of muffins with one of the pieces. So I think that'll be a little bit fun. And that'll give it all kinds of taste that you might not expect from a Pennsylvania Dutch friendship bread. I'll tell you what, this is very therapeutic kneading this bread. You can really get into it. It's so soft and it just moves. You can feel the life in it. And there's different ways to knead bread, but I just keep folding it and pushing it down. Good for the muscles. I think we have it just about there. Knead it pretty good. So, what I'm going to do this time is I want to cut this depending what I want to make. Now, I have some little mini baking pans for the sourdough, almost personal servings. I have some cupcake tins, and I have a cookie sheet with parchment paper. We're going to use all three, one at a time. So I think what I'm going to do is cut my bread into 4 sections, as equal as I can by eye. Okay, there's 2. Now if you have some really big loaf pans, maybe you just want to do 2 and make some really big loaf pans. But I'm going to make smaller quantities of the different kinds that we mentioned. The sourdough bread, the cheddar cheese biscuits or muffins, and some cinnamon rolls. Alright, I think I might take a little bit off of that one and add it to that. That way they look pretty much equal. Okay, to me at least. So, the first one, I'm just going to knead this a little bit because I added that piece, or the first 2 I should say, are going to be pretty easy. And by doing it this way, you can find out what your family likes the best, and then you can make more of those the next time. Okay, what we want to do for the sourdough bread is simply spray our baking pan with jam. I get the one with the butter flavor in it. I don't know, I think it adds something, but you use the kind you like. They have I guess olive oil ones. They have all kinds these days. And we're going to put one of our dough balls in the shape of a loaf pan in there. And again, we're going to just put a little oil on our fingertips and smooth that over the top, because we're going to be covering this with wax paper and letting it rise for 8 hours before we bake it. Alright, those 2 didn't take a lot of extra coaxing, so they're ready to go to cover with wax paper and rise. Now we're going to work on, I think, the cheddar cheese. And I just got this lovely little bag of cheddar cheese that I'm going to use, and we're going to knead in the cheddar. Might do this a little at a time. And also, I have some onion salt here, and I'm going to probably put about a half a teaspoon of onion salt in with this to give it that pop of flavor. Okay, we're just going to start kneading this to get it throughout. And as you get that little bit of cheddar blended in there, kneaded in, you can add some more. This is 0.3 ounces, 0.3 ounces of cheddar cheese. And the key is when you get these out of the oven, we're going to brush them with butter and then just sprinkle a little bit more of the onion salt on the top. And to me, that would make a really good biscuit or muffin similar to what you get when you go to Red Lobster. And ours might even be better. They might steal our recipe. Of course, I see in shelves in the grocery store where they actually sell the biscuit mix now for those muffins. You can make a meal out of those. Okay, that's the balance of our cheese. We're going to mix that all in there. I'm just going to cut my dough in half again. Make them in little balls. Well, I might get 10 the way it looks. The way I cut them. So we're going to get about 10 out of here, I believe. Or maybe 11. There'll be different sizes, so people can try different sizes if they're a little hesitant. So we have our cheddar cheese balls with a little onion salt, and we're going to get our cooking sheet here with our parchment paper on here, cookie sheet. I'm just going to spread these out a little bit. We're going to be covering them again with wax paper and letting them rise. That's a baby one. There we go. And now the final one, let's get rid of this, is that we are going to do some cinnamon rolls. And I'm going to spray my ham in there. One is new and one is old. There we go. Okay, and we want to kind of make it rectangular so that we can roll this into a log with our cinnamon and sugar in the center. All right. That's a bit of a rectangle. So we're gonna spread butter on this. There we go. And we're going to sprinkle the brown sugar across the dough. Okay, and then this is our cinnamon sugar. We're just going to put a touch of that in there too. There we go. And if you like nuts, we can add a few walnuts. If you like raisins, you can add raisins. I'm not going to put raisins in today. And if you want to break them up or chop them up a little bit, that's fine. Sprinkle them out on there. Yeah, just put them on to your liking. If you like a lot of nuts or just a little nut flavor, whatever is fine. It's your cinnamon roll, so you can customize it to the way you like it. Okay, and then we are going to roll these . These mats are nice, you can make them work to your advantage. And we have a log, so now we're just going to cut the log in half and then into half again, and then into thirds, and we should have 12 cinnamon rolls. Okay, we're just going to put these into our muffin tins on their side and let them rise as well. Okay, we have them all together. Okay, we're going to let that rise for 8 hours. We'll be back to bake.